So hey guys, and welcome to another video. We're really close to Christmas now. As I record this video, it's actually Christmas Eve, which I thought would be an appropriate time to talk about my plans for next year. I will be recording a couple more videos where I'm going to get back into talking about watches generally, but for now this video is just a short video really, just to talk about my plans for next year. I was thinking about doing a state of the collection, by the way. Seems to be the in thing on YouTube, where all the YouTubers go on and do their state of collection at the end of the year. I've decided not to do that right now. I just think it's a little bit too early for me to be pulling all my watches out and showing you everything. There's so much other stuff that I really want to get into quite quickly, and I think what I'll do probably is some kind of state of the collection video, maybe in the new year sometime. I've also been thinking about the fact that I'm not the only sort of watch collector in our house. My wife's really into watches as well, so to the point where we actually share a lot of our watches that we buy, and so I'll probably do a state of the marital collection rather than just a state of the collection. So hopefully that's worth waiting for, guys. You can see the inaugural YouTube state of the marital collection watch collection. But guys, I wanted to talk just briefly, if I may, and just to say thank you for all of you who have been supporting this channel. You know, I started this channel just under 6 weeks ago now, so you know it's the blink of an eye really, and you know, and in that time, you know, as of recording this video, we've got over 500 subscribers. So I'm really humbled and flattered by that, guys. It's really nice that a lot of you out there are enjoying the content enough to want to subscribe. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for that. You know, the thing about getting the subscribers, and the thing that really encourages me, is that it tells me how well the channel is going in terms of the content that I'm putting out. I've got analytics where I can see which videos are performing better than others in terms of how many people are clicking on them and watching them, of course, but I think, you know, the real gauge is subscribership, because that tells me that there are people that like the style and the delivery and they want to come back. So thank you so much. And actually that leads me to my first point about next year, my goals for next year. And one of the key things for me going into next year is I want to keep working on the channel. I'm really enjoying this channel. I'm really enjoying making videos. As you can see, I'm basically doing one take videos. I haven't got into editing. I'm running these videos basically off of my cell phone. And what I want to do going into next year is I just want to work a little bit more on maybe some of the editing of the videos, taking out some of the rambles and the junk that you don't really want to hear about, and also work on the sound. So quite early going into next year, in fact in the next few days, I'll be investing in a external microphone, so that hopefully the sound gets better, and you'll hear less of the background noise around me. There's a helicopter that flies over pretty much every 10 minutes or so here, and that's because there's a small kind of private airfield not far from where we live, and quite often there's World War II. It's wonderful to see. There's World War II. There's a Spitfire that flies over now and then. There's a World War I biplane that flies over fairly frequently, and helicopters. So that's why every now and then in the background you will hear something flying overhead. It's because we're quite close to a private airfield. So I want to work on maybe the microphone side of things so that I can get the sound delivered a little bit more better for you. In terms of the content, I want to keep it really genuine, guys. I don't want to get into kind of doing reviews of watches that I don't own, which is for that reason, because I don't own an awful lot of watches. I won't be doing necessarily lots and lots of reviews of different watches. What I want to focus on is, this channel is to be quite informal and focus on my own experiences with watches. Some of the things I talk about you might not find interesting, you might not relate to, but you know, it's a video log really of my experiences with watches. I also, going into next year, I want to talk more about the psychology of watches and watch collecting. There's this huge I guess arena of subject matter that I've got a great deal of interest in, around the psychology of collecting and the psychology of watch collecting and being a watch enthusiast. So I'd like to talk about that, and hopefully talk about it in a kind of a jovial, humorous, maybe slightly sarcastic manner as well. And you will have picked up some of those I guess notations in some of my previous videos, that there's an element of sarcasm and I guess self-deprecation to what I say sometimes, and I don't mean any of it seriously, guys. I think it's just fun. It's just a hobby. It's just watches. It's just man jewelry at the end of the day, and let's have some fun. So key thing for me is I want to be able to, if I can, offer some helpful advice to people, but more than anything, guys, I just want to entertain. I find it entertaining to make the videos, and I just want to entertain you. So as long as we have that agreement that I'm not going to hit you with watch reviews, and I'm certainly not going to be receiving watches from manufacturers and looking for sponsorship. This is just about me reaching out to fellow enthusiasts to talk about whatever it is that's on my mind, and that's the way it'll continue. So thank you. I just really wanted to say thank you more than anything for all your support. Now, from a watch collecting perspective for me, I've made some decisions about my aims for 2024 and what I want to achieve, and I've got a little list of things here that I just wanted to run past you all, and just to give you a feel for where I'm at going into next year. So, in terms of my overall objectives in the hobby, apart from obviously to just keep working on this channel. I'm going to, from a watch collecting, from a watch buying perspective, I'm going to slow down and be a lot more considered than I have been in the past, and I think that's really important. Like a lot of you out there, and I'll talk about this in another video, is a lot of the watches that we see online, we're only able to buy online as well, and I don't know if that's the same necessarily in every country. Maybe in larger countries or a larger city where you live, you may be able to get access to all of the watches that you're interested in, you know, face to face and physically. But certainly here in New Zealand, there are a lot of brands actually which just aren't even here. And one example of that would be Zenith. I mean, Zenith, I would absolutely love to have a Zenith in my collection. They look like fantastic watches. I really like some of the chronographs that Zenith make. I like their design aesthetic, and the price point is okay. It's affordable, I guess. It's at the high end of where I'm at in life, but I can afford a Zenith potentially in the future. But there's no Zenith authorized dealer here in New Zealand. The same goes for Oris. Oris is another brand. It's I guess a smaller Swiss brand. You've probably all heard of them by now. I'd love to get into Oris, but there aren't any Oris authorized dealers here. So, like a lot of you guys, I've ended up buying, or I guess the only way I can try a watch sometimes is to buy it. And so what ends up happening, of course, is you look at a watch online, you watch a couple of YouTube reviews, you think, yeah, that watch is going to work for me. So you buy the watch, it gets delivered, you put it on, you wear it for a while, and you think, yeah, it's okay, it's a nice watch. But for whatever reason, it just doesn't sing to you. And then, you know, within 2 or 3 months, you know, the watch is up for sale because you just want to move on to something else. It hasn't quite bitten you strongly enough for you to want to keep it in the collection. So, and I will be making a video about collection size as well quite soon, and what works for me and what doesn't work for me. So you end up selling the watch, and what I want to do, guys, is I want to sort of get out of that habit of buying to try. I need to be more considered with my watch purchasing, not necessarily just for financial reasons, because typically, you know, there is a cost to being in any hobby, and I don't mind losing, you know, a few $100 here or there over the course of a year on trading watches, because I just see that as a cost to be in the hobby. And it would be the same in any hobby. You know, when you're buying consumables for any hobby, you know, you're basically just throwing that money away essentially, because the resale value of it drops. And watches are no different. You just have to be very careful with watches, of course, because some of the outlays, some of the initial outlays are obviously a lot larger. So I'm going to be more considered, guys, as we go into 2024. I'm going to take my time. I'm not going to make any impulse buys. And I've made a lot of those over the years, a lot of impulse buys. You know, you look at something online, you see it's for sale, it's available, and you know, the heart starts racing, the blood starts pumping, and you look at your bank account and you think, yeah, I can make this work, I can do this, and before you know it, you've pushed buy now. And quite often those are the decisions, those are the watches that end up probably selling quicker out of your collection just as quickly as they came in. So yeah, look, guys, at the end of the day, you know, just a little bit more considered about my purchasing, especially with the economy being the way it is now. You know, it goes without saying that you know, there are a couple of 3 tough years ahead. You know, in the global economy. We all need to be more careful with our money, regardless of how much money you have, whether you're a rich guy or a poor guy. You know, you still need to be more mindful of what you're doing with your money these days, don't you? Especially with the world the way it is. Nothing lasts forever. And so I'll certainly be very, very cautious, I think, as we go into next year. Okay, so I've got a short list, guys, and I want to kind of finish this video with a short list of the watches that I would love to buy next year, all things going well. And these would be considered purchases. So number one is a Tudor. I would really, really like to get my hands on a Tudor FXD Marine Nationale Pelagos. Now that was a watch that's been out in the market now for a couple of years. I think that was released in early 2021. Late 2021, that's right. It was the MN21 serial number on the bag, and everybody said that was the one to get because it was only going to be it was only going to have that serial number on the back for 3 months, because it was released, I think, in September. I don't want the MN21, I want the MN24 if there's going to be one. I'd love to get my hands on one of those. I haven't seen one for sale here in New Zealand. There are 2 authorised dealers that could potentially have one. I haven't seen one for sale, and when I've talked to the authorised dealers here about that watch, they've basically said they've barely seen one or two. Look, I don't know how correct that is, because I've seen at least 2 for sale now on the auction website here in New Zealand, and interestingly, they've struggled to sell. They haven't been snapped up immediately. They've been for sale at pretty much retail, or just a little bit higher. I think the last one I saw a couple of months ago. It's for sale at a couple of $100 over retail, not much. But I did think to myself, as much as I want this watch, if I'm going to pay retail for a watch, guys, I want to buy it from the authorised dealer. I don't want to buy a watch that someone else has worn, even if they haven't worn it much. If I'm going to pay retail price, I'm going to buy it from the retailer. So I'll hang on for that. That'll come my way at some point, I'm sure. And so Tudor FXD, that would almost, I'd say, be my number one. That's the watch that I really want to get my hands on. Having had a bit of a run recently on Rolex, especially through 2023, I've been very fortunate. I've picked up 3 Rolexes through authorised dealers here, and I've got my eyes on that Tudor. So second on my list is a Rolex, because no watch collector's collection would be balanced without a Rolex Submariner, and I'm specifically talking about the Submariner, not the Submariner Date. And I've got no issues with the Submariner Date, but I already have a Sea Dweller 126600, and I already have I'm very fortunate to have a couple of GMT Master 2s, and I've also just picked up a Datejust. So I think I'm done, when it comes to Rolexes and the Date Rolexes with a bezel and the Cyclops. I'm kind of done on that. What I'd really, really like is that Submariner. To me, the Rolex Submariner, and the current model is the 124060. That for me is the perfect. If you only ever bought one Rolex in your entire life, for me, then this is a personal choice, of course, you'll all feel differently. For me, the 124060 Rolex Submariner is the only Rolex. If you got a call for that, you would just walk away from the ADs once you've bought it, guys. Never go back looking for more, because that's the one that's going to keep you happy for the rest of your life. That's the way I feel about it, anyway. So I'd like to get my hands on one of those. I am on the wait list. Call it a wait list. It's not a wait list, is it? It's an expression of interest list with my 2 authorised dealers here in New Zealand. I am on the expression of interest list for that. So if that comes up, fantastic. I'll be over the moon. So those are the 2 key ones, guys, for me. Is the Pelagos FXD Marine Nationale and the Rolex Submariner 124060. They're the 2 watches that I would be very, very happy with getting in 2024, and that would do me. I wouldn't want anything else. If those 2 watches come my way, that'll be me done. So if those 2 don't come up, there are other watches that I've kind of got on my radar. One is another Rolex. It's the Rolex Deep Sea, and it's the James Cameron version of the Deep Sea. I won't go into the details about that watch, guys, but I will be putting a picture up of that watch so you can have a quick look at it now. I think that is a beautiful, beautiful watch. Now, it does somewhat cross over with the Sea Dweller 126600 that I've got, but I'll let you into a little secret with that Sea Dweller, that 126600, the SD43, is my wife wears that frequently. She loves that watch, and this is going back to what I was saying earlier, is that my wife's, she's not as much of a watch nerd as I am, but she loves her watches too, and my wife, although she's very petite, she loves wearing that Sea Dweller. So I'm kind of thinking, well, you know, that's as good as an excuse as I need to get myself another large Rolex diver, because my wife wears the only other one that I've got. So I think you guys would agree with that. That's a reasonable excuse to go out and drop her, you know, 20k on another Rolex, isn't it? Anyway, yeah, the James Cameron, that's the one I want. And finally, guys, just to wrap this up, there are two other kind of categories of watches, if you like, that I'm going to be keeping my eye on as we go into the new year through 2024. One is vintage Grand Seiko. Now I'll take a step back. I'm going to do a video on Grand Seikos very soon, because I have owned a couple of Grand Seikos, modern Grand Seikos. I don't have a Grand Seiko in my collection right now, but I have owned a couple. I've owned a quartz and I've owned an automatic. And I'm going to do a video on Grand Seiko and just talk about what I think of them and how I feel about Grand Seiko. What I will say is that Grand Seiko made some absolutely stonking watches in the late 60s and throughout the 70s. Some stonking dress watches. And this, of course, was at a time when nobody had heard of Grand Seiko outside of Japan, because they were a Japanese brand, and they made their watches for Japanese people. And there were very few Grand Seikos outside of Japan until quite recently, actually, until, you know, I say recently as in the last 15-20 years. They've started to become more and more available, and actually even to the point now where, you know, they're available quite readily at the authorised dealer here in Auckland, where they weren't up until a couple of years ago. So vintage Grand Seiko is a category that I've got my eye on, and I've had a couple of vintage Grand Seikos. And I'm still looking for the perfect one, and I'll explain why maybe in my Grand Seiko video that I do over the next week or two. And just to finish, guys, last but by very much not the least, vintage, and I'm talking proper vintage now, not neo vintage, vintage Omega. I really like the really old Seamaster, and the reference on that is the 166010. And I'll put up a picture of that to the side here as well, so that you can see that watch and what I'm talking about here. That's a 35mm diameter case size. It's a very thin watch. It's got a lovely beads of rice bracelet, and I actually had one of those. I bought one a couple of years ago now on a whim, and it even had box and papers with it as well. It's from 1971, and it had box and papers. It was in fantastic condition. And for some crazy reason, guys, I let that watch go because I wanted to get something else, and I sold that watch. Now I'm never going to get that watch with box and papers again. That was a oncer. Somebody else has got that now and is enjoying it. But there is a slightly different dial design that I think I prefer to the one that I had, and I'll put that up. That's one that's got a crosshair dial. I do like a crosshair dial, especially on the vintage watches. I think it's a bit overused in some watches, modern watches, but I think in some of the vintage watches they got the crosshair dial perfect. So I've got my eye on that. So, you know, vintage Grand Seiko and vintage Omega, I'll be keeping a close eye on too. And actually in my next video I will be talking about how to buy a second hand, how to buy a used watch. So some of the tips that I'll be using to buy my watch, my used watch, I'll be actually talking to you about in my next video. So that's it, guys. That's me wrapping it up now. This video was really just to talk about the channel, and to say thank you to all of you who have subscribed, and to obviously talk to you about my goals for 2024. Please do leave comments in the comments section and let me know what your goals are for next year. And if you've got any ideas, by the way, guys, of things that you'd like me to talk about, then please feel free to drop those into the comments as well. I want to be relevant. It'll always be informal, but I want to be relevant. I want to put videos up that you guys are actually interested in. So please do drop any ideas that you've got in the comments, and if I know anything about it, I'm more than happy to talk about it. Thanks for watching the video, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.